Okay, here we are again. This time I really want to ask for your help. I know for a fact there's a lot of people out there that need a guide. And we all have guides to a certain extent. We have, I don't know, so to speak, different voices in our head, or we have spirit guides, or we have higher power guides. We have various forms of guides that we have. And some of them are good and some of them are not so good. We know from Carl Jung that we have archetypal behavior patterns, and they're like voices in our head that have different agendas. And we know that we share four of those in common: the child, the prostitute, the saboteur, and the victim. The saboteur can be very deadly. The prostitute is not a sexual entity, but one where you'll do a job that you don't like, but it has a big paycheck. So those can be guides also. I think what's really important to understand, and what I'm trying to present today, is that you need a guide that you can trust. One that preferably has been through maybe what you've been through, or someone that understands what you've been through. And that's where I come in. I have a lot of practical experience over a lot of years. And one of the things that early on, about 42 years ago or so, recognized that I had a problem with addictions. And thank goodness I was able to attend a 12-step program. And within that program, the first step was that we admitted that we were powerless over, and then you can put in whatever you may be powerless over. For me, it was alcohol. And then for several years, I was misreading the second part, which said that our lives had become unmanageable. I put an and in there. So what that meant was that we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. Well, that would say that if I stopped my addiction or got rid of my addiction, that my life would become manageable. That's two different things. There's a dash in there. And that dash says that we may be able to clean up our addiction, but our life is still unmanageable. And I want to give you a reason why it is unmanageable. One of the things that happens to us throughout our life is that we experience trauma and drama and wounds and hurt and pain and all of these different things that come along our way. If they are lessons that we need to learn in our life, the problem is if we don't learn those lessons, that they will be offered to us over and over and over again until we learn the lessons. That's where I come in, because I know how to overcome and reframe and learn the lessons of the past. These are the things that are similar to a wound. Let's say you get a wound on your hand or your arm or anywhere on your body. Well, your body is smart enough to go ahead and develop this crusty uh, cap over it, this bit of uh, scar tissue, which is really hard and which is really uh, not movable and unbendable and stiff and really places over the wound so it could heal. But when it's ripped off or torn off or scraped off, you relive that same pain. All of that stuff comes back to you when the scar's removed, the scar tissue's taken away. It's the same thing in your mind. What happens is we experience these things in our past, and then something comes along that's similar to it or quite like it or might be pretty much like it, and the scab is ripped off, and it creates all that emotional trauma and drama and pain and hurt all again, just like it happened the first time. The key is there's a lesson there. To begin with, the lesson is something that we need to pay attention to and learn, which is what a lot of us don't do. But I'm here to help you. I'm here to teach you how to do that. So one of the things that I use is we use the TAT protocol, T-A-T. I've discussed this before, the Tapas acupressure technique. And part of this technique is that you're able to look at these life lessons that we have in this life's journey of ours as if we're sitting in an audience, looking at a screen, and we see what happened. And whatever happened, we can understand it factually, not emotionally. We don't go through a cathartic experience of it again. We just view it as something that happened. And then what we can do is get ownership. We take ownership at that time. Once we have ownership of something and name it, then we get to do whatever we want with it. So I have guided thousands of people through the workings of working out how to get their life manageable. Because to be honest with you, right now, it's really in the forefront, a paramount issue right now with everybody coming off this COVID-19 isolation. And I'm sure a lot of you have been quite uncomfortable and uneasy, and you don't really know why. You have no idea of why you feel the way you do from this isolation that we're going through. We are a gregarious type of people, and we do need others around us, and it has kept us from being with others and having that close, intimate contact with people. But there's another point that we need to look at. There's someone here in the room, which is yourself. You need to be comfortable with that person by yourself. And that's where people don't understand that that's what makes them so uneasy. They're not comfortable in their own skin. They're not comfortable with themselves. Part of the reason is because we have that loop that goes around and around that we keep reviewing all those life lessons that we never learned, and they will be offered to you again and again and over again until you get it. So I'm here to guide you through that so that you can get through, understand the life lessons, and then you get to move on. And moving on doesn't mean that there aren't going to be any more life lessons. That's not true. Moving on means that, yeah, eventually we're going to get to the point where we've learned a whole lot of our life lessons. And then we're going to be able to be at peace, because that's the key. We have a birthright to joy, happiness, and freedom. And if we're not claiming that, at least partially during each day that we live, then we need some help. We need a guide. And I'm telling you, you can't find a better guide than myself. Not only have I walked the walk with a lot of these things, because I believe I've lived two different lives. One of them was prior to when I sobered up, and I lived a very colorful life and did a lot of things that I did regret. And it did take me a long time to make all of my amends. But the second part of my life has been one of gratitude and of giving and of caring and of being empathetic and of guiding people to where I have reached the point in my life that I'm at peace with myself, that I'm comfortable in my own skin, and that I have parts of my day that are full of joy, happiness, and freedom. And that's what I want for you. Now, I had mentioned earlier in my talks that I appreciate the help that I am getting. And I'm sure that you can notice that there has been a little transition, that I'm getting a little bit more sophisticated, taking more advice about what I should be doing. Somebody told me that I need to be the main part of some of these things. And so that's why I'm the main part of these things. And I'm learning how to put a little bit of a different background. I'll get to that later, but it's a lot to learn. And I do appreciate the suggestions that I get. One of the things was that my talks were a little bit too long, and I lose interest in people if it's more than 10 minutes. So I'm trying to keep them to 10 minutes, and I'm also learning from all the suggestions that I'm getting. So any suggestions you have, I'm welcome. I welcome them. But keep in mind that I would like to help you get you to the point that you have some of your day filled with joy, happiness, and freedom. Thank you again very much.